You have 300 friends on your phone. You talk to maybe 5 of them. The rest are just names, faces, ghosts in your pocket. But here is the strange part. Your brain was never built to handle 300 people. It was built for a number so specific, so consistent across human history, that scientists gave it a name. And once you learn that number, you will start seeing it everywhere, in your friend group, in your office, in the size of your favorite childhood neighborhood. You are still living in a tribe, you just don't know it yet. For most of human existence, you did not live in a city. You did not scroll past strangers. You lived in a small band, 50 people, maybe 100, rarely more. This was not a cultural choice, it was a biological limit. Your brain, specifically the outer layer called the neocortex, can only track so many relationships at once. Think of it like memory storage. Every person you know takes up space. Their face, their voice, their history with you, who they trust, who they don't. Multiply that by hundreds of people, and the math breaks down fast. In the early 1990s, a British anthropologist named Robin Dunbar noticed something odd while studying primates. Larger primate brains, especially larger neocortices, correlated with larger social groups. Chimpanzees that lived in bigger troops had bigger neocortices relative to their body size. Dunbar wondered if the same rule applied to humans. So he did the math. He plotted human neocortex size against known human social group sizes throughout history and prehistory. The number that came out was about 150, not a round number, not an estimate someone made up for convenience, a number that kept appearing again and again across wildly different kinds of evidence. Hunter-gatherer bands, Roman army units, the basic fighting company, Amish farming communities, wedding invitation lists across cultures, corporate divisions that function well before needing a manager added, Christmas card lists, back when people still sent them, all hovering somewhere close to 150. Dunbar called this the cognitive limit of stable social relationships. You might know it as Dunbar's number. What does stable actually mean here? It does not mean people you recognize. It means people whose whole social context you can hold in your head, who they are married to, what they do for a living, whether you owe them a favor or they owe you one. That kind of relationship takes mental bandwidth. In bandwidth, unlike friend requests, is not infinite. Anthropologist Kim Hill spent years living among and studying hunter-gatherer societies, including the Ake people of Paraguay and the Hadza of Tanzania. Her fieldwork found something remarkable. Even though these groups moved and mixed with other bands regularly, the total number of people an individual maintained close. Functioning ties with rarely exceeded that same range Dunbar predicted. It didn't matter that these were different continents, different diets, different climates. The ceiling was strangely consistent. Your ancestors were not choosing to have small circles. Their brains were choosing for them. Here is where it gets stranger. Anthropologists Russell Bernard and Peter Kilworth ran a separate line of research entirely, using a completely different method. Instead of studying primate brains or hunter-gatherer bands, they asked modern people to estimate how many individuals they personally knew by name well enough to greet on the street. Across multiple studies, in different populations, the median answer clustered in a similar range to Dunbar's prediction. Two totally different research approaches, one evolutionary, one purely sociological, landing in roughly the same place. That is not a coincidence you can wave away. So why does this matter to you, scrolling through a phone that says you have hundreds of connections? Because your brain never got the update. It is still running ancient software on modern hardware. When you have 500 followers, your brain is not tracking 500 relationships. It is quietly sorting them. Maybe 15 people you would call in a crisis. 50 you would invite to a big life event. 150 you would recognize and catch up with if you ran into them. Everyone past that number becomes background noise, familiar shapes with no weight behind them. Think about your own phone right now. How many contacts do you actually text back within the hour? How many do you know are struggling right now or celebrating something without having to ask? Probably not many. Probably somewhere close to that old number. The tribe never left. It just got buried under a much larger, much louder crowd of acquaintances. This explains something else, too. Why groups of people, left alone long enough, tend to split. Companies that grow past a certain size start to feel different, colder, more bureaucratic. Not because the people changed, but because no single person can hold the whole organization in their head anymore. The military figured this out centuries before neuroscience did. Break large forces into units of roughly 100 to 150, because beyond that, cohesion falls apart. Trust needs a ceiling before it can function. There is a darker mirror to this too. Consider what happens in cities of millions, where you pass thousands of strangers a day and register almost none of them as people. Your ancestors never had to develop deep empathy for strangers, because strangers in the ancient world were rare and often dangerous. Your brain still carries a faint trace of that logic. Not hostility exactly, more like invisibility. A stranger on a crowded street registers differently than a stranger in your actual tribe, even if you would never notice the shift happening. But here is the counterintuitive twist. This limit is not a flaw. It might be one of the reasons you survived at all. A tribe of 150 is small enough to trust completely and large enough to specialize. Someone hunts, someone tracks, someone remembers which plants are poison, someone settles arguments. A tribe that size can share food during a bad season without anyone free riding for long, because everyone knows everyone's reputation. Go much smaller, and you lose the division of labor that let humans outsurvive every other primate on the planet. Go much larger, without technology to help, and trust collapses because no one can track who is honest and who isn't. You are, in a very real sense, walking around with the operating system of a 150-person village, dropped into a species that built cities of 10 million. No wonder it feels exhausting sometimes to keep up with everyone. No wonder a few relationships feel like they matter more than all the rest combined, no matter how many names sit in your phone. Your brain is not failing to keep up with modern life. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. It is just being asked to do it at a scale it was never designed for. So the next time you feel guilty for not replying to a message from someone you barely know, or overwhelmed by a group chat that never stops buzzing, remember what is actually happening underneath. You are not broken, you are ancient. Somewhere behind your eyes, a small ancient village is still doing head counts, still deciding who gets a seat by the fire, and who stays outside the circle. You have 300 friends on your phone, but you only have one tribe, and it was never bigger than 150.